Hi, this is Angel Diaz Maroto. Welcome to the first part of the audio guide, How to Lead an Agile Transformation. This time, we're going to dig deeper on the first conversation that needs to happen in order to successfully run an Agile Transformation. This is the purpose. In my more than 14 years of experience in the field, I've seen many organizations focusing too much on practices. When these organizations try to implement agility, they focus on understanding what is agile, what are the practices, what are the tools, what are the roles and responsibilities. Instead, I think there is an even more important conversation to consider way before starting to understand the practices, which is why agile, or even better, what for? What do you want to get from agility? This is a very important conversation. Otherwise, we won't be able to reach the expected result. And then that will become a frustrating situation in the future, as we are not very clear about what we will expect from agility. Some people expect just faster software development, while others expect to please their customers. This is why it's very important to ensure that this conversation happens. To start off, I'll like to suggest some definitions that will make a little bit more clear for us to understand what do we want to achieve when it comes to agility. I like to define agility as the ability of a system to move quickly and easily. Therefore, business agility would be the ability of a business to change position quickly and easily in response to changes in market conditions. When it refers to product development, we can say that agile is the ability of an organization to adapt in response to changes in customer needs. Developing this ability in organizations is not an easy endeavor, and therefore we need to get a new element into consideration, and this is leadership. I propose to define leadership as the ability of an individual to influence a system taking care of a purpose. This time, the leader is taking care of increasing the ability of these organizations to respond to the changes in the market conditions. And this is how I define leadership for agility, which is the ability that we also want to create and the people who is championing these initiatives in order to get organizations to be agile. The power of influence of a leader will be very much conditioned by his connection to the purpose. This is why it's critical for the success of a leader to deepen in a conversation around the purpose. This conversation can be with the leader himself, just self-discovering and self-analyzing a connection with a purpose, or in a conversation with a coach. And what is purpose? I propose three different perspectives to the purpose. One is the quest. It's connected to what do we look for in life, what is important for us, how our values are present on what we do. If we don't have a very clear connection with the quest that is present in our purpose, it will be very difficult for us to be connected and passionate about this purpose. So the first question is, what's on that for me? How are my values present in this purpose? Because this creates passion. The second perspective is result. Something that I learned from dancing is that if you don't have a very clear image of what is the next step that you are going to perform, the person that you are leading even less. You have to have a very clear projection of what do you expect. How is it going to be when it's done? And how am I going to measure that we are getting closer to the expected scenario? If we don't have a very clear way to measure the result or a very clear projection and image of what is going to happen, it will be very difficult to understand when I'm there, and will be very confusing for the people that is helping us in our initiative. The third perspective is the commitment. We need to have a very clear understanding of what are we going to do and how are we going to be accountable for our purpose. If we don't have an unconditional commitment, we might try to make others guilty for our failures. We might try to point fingers on other people and justify ourselves, saying that it's a problem of the organization, it's a problem of the people, it's a problem of management, it's someone else's problem. And this is not helpful, because we need to walk the talk and we need to take an active role in the initiative and not being a victim. Victimism doesn't help, as there are plenty of possible excuses not to do something. The role of the leader involves taking ownership and not being a victim. Consider that we are all leaders, so there's not an excuse saying my boss is not helping. It's more helpful to understand what can I do and what am I open to do in order to succeed in this purpose, as my action will be speaking for my purpose. I can say whatever I want, but only if I act in that direction is when I'm actually declaring that his purpose is my purpose, and I'm a leader. To summarize, we are going to analyze purpose from 3 different perspectives. The quest, what's on that for me, but as a person, not as a professional. The results, am I able to project and envision the future? And the commitment, is it possible for me to take full commitment and unconditional commitment to ensure that it happens? This is, of course, not an easy task. It requires many competencies that we need to ensure we develop to become better leaders. Some of those competencies are being empathic, to understand others and others' perspective, being open to listen and ask questions to get as much information as possible about the context in which we are going to lead and about the system that we want to influence. We need to be curious and be humble so that we know that maybe we don't know, to be inclusive with the perspectives of others and be able to identify the opportunities of alignment with others. We're trying to co-create a purpose and co-create an initiative. And this is why integrating allies and perspectives is critical to create a movement and momentum. Passion will be driven us to success, and we need to connect with this passion. And this involves self-management, and this involves self-awareness. Understanding what's in that for me, and understanding how I do what I do, and why I do what I do. We also need to be able to communicate properly so people can understand and connect with our passion. And we need to be consistent. Walking the talk is a critical element on leadership. Happily enough, there are people that can help leaders to develop those capabilities. There are professionals whose job is to empower people so that they take the most of their abilities. And those are coaches. Unfortunately, I've seen how the professional coaching has been misunderstood frequently in the industry. So this is why I think it is very important to properly define coaching. As the International Coaching Federation suggests, coaching is partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And this is not an easy task either. It requires proper training and experience on the application of a specific competencies that are actually very much connected to the ones in the leader. As a coach, is a transformational leader also. Professional coaches are masters on the skill of deepening, helping their customers to discover more about themselves and about their environment. They are able to be present with their client, not by giving advices, but by holding a space of discovery and fulfillment for the customer. The coach walks his customer through this space in order to uncover new abilities. And this, of course, involves certain competences, being a skilled listener and master the power of questions to create thought-provoking environment for the client, helping the client being consistent with their values and their purpose to reach the most of himself, knowing how to communicate and how to co-create options with the client, integrating and valuing all the perspectives that lead within the client. Self-regulation and self-awareness is also critical for coaches to be able to hold a space in the customer's agenda over the coach agenda. And this is how professional coaches work, because yes, professional coaching is a profession. You need to be trained for it. In summary, if you are running an initiative or you are helping someone to run this initiative, please ensure that you have a very deep and long conversation around the purpose. Ensure that the promise is clear. We understand what is going to happen and what for. Please focus on the purpose of what do you want to achieve and what for, instead of just trying to understand the practices. That is very risky. It could lead to practices implemented that never lead us to the expected result. This is the first step. The next step is to turn your purpose in our purpose. And we are going to talk about that topic in the part 2 of this series. I hope you enjoyed this audio guide and you find it helpful for your Agile initiative. Ensure that this conversation happened because it's a critical factor to the success of your endeavor as an Agile practitioner. Thank you very much for your attention and see you very soon in the next audio guide.